Consciousness was never meant to be. Ever wish you could simply stop thinking? Not like when you're tired or overwhelmed, but truly, permanently, as if your mind had an off switch. Imagine existing without self-awareness. No constant stream of thoughts. No crushing weight of knowing that you exist. You were never meant to carry this burden. Consciousness wasn't part of nature's blueprint. Nature only needed survival, replication. And for millions of years, that was enough. No thinking, no questioning, just being. But somewhere along the evolutionary path, something went wrong. A mutation, an accident. Nature created a creature not only able to survive, but able to reflect on survival. And that was the birth of suffering. A wolf doesn't ponder its purpose at night. A fish doesn't feel anxiety. A tree doesn't question why it grows. But you? You were cursed. Cursed with a brain so advanced, it became aware of itself, a mind trapped inside its own skull, forever echoing with questions it can't answer. Why do humans suffer like no other creature? Anxiety, depression, fear of death. These aren't flaws, they're features of a mind that was never meant to think this much. Your ancestors only needed just enough awareness to escape predators and find food. But your mind didn't stop there. It evolved and then turned on itself. What has consciousness truly given us? Yes, we build cities. We write poetry. We fly to the moon. But mostly, we drown in distraction, movies, books, conversations, addictions, anything to avoid sitting alone with the terrifying fact that we are aware. And the worst part? There's no escape. You can't unknow that you exist. You can't return to the bliss of ignorance. No matter how you try to silence the mind, it keeps searching louder and louder. Some call consciousness a gift. They say it lets us feel beauty, love, and awe. But maybe that's just another story we tell ourselves. Because for every fleeting moment of joy, there is a sea of dread beneath, the knowledge that all we love will perish, that nothing we do will outlast us, and that, in the end, we are utterly alone in our minds. Perhaps life should have stopped with single-celled organisms. Bacteria may have had it right. Mindless, replicating, untroubled. No purpose. No fear. Just being. But here we are, possessors of a mind that suffers over things that don't even exist. And that is the final irony. The more intelligent we become, the more we hurt. Intelligence, our supposed triumph, only led us to the edge of the abyss and made us stare into it. You never asked for this. You never chose to be conscious. But you carry it. Every moment. You can run. You can numb. But you can never escape. Because the mistake was never life itself. The mistake was knowing you were alive. Existence is a punishment. You opened your eyes, felt the familiar weight of your body, hear the low hum of the world continuing without you. Maybe you stretched, glanced at your phone, sighed at the thought of facing another day. But have you ever stopped to ask, why? Why this life? Why this body, this time, this endless routine of exhaustion, struggle, and disappointment? What if it's not random? What if this existence isn't a gift, but a sentence? A punishment for something you did long before you had a name, a memory, or a choice. You don't recall committing a crime. You don't remember doing anything so severe it would deserve this. This lifetime filled with uncertainty, pain, fear, and loss. But that's part of the cruelty. You don't get to know. Every creature on this planet is born into suffering. Animals are torn apart by predators. Children are born into hunger and disease. Even the happiest life ends in slow decay. And yet, we call this normal. We accept suffering as simply part of being alive. But why? If life were truly a blessing, if existence were meant to be something sacred, then why does it hurt so deeply? Why would something good be built on a foundation of so much pain? You don't create something this brutal by accident. So what if this world, this life, is no accident? What if it's a prison, built with precision, constructed with intent, and you were placed here deliberately? Maybe you lived before. In another time, another world. Maybe you made a choice, one so catastrophic, so unforgivable, that the only justice was this: to be stripped of everything you once were, to be reborn into a fragile body with a mind that forgets, a soul that aches, and a life that feels like it was never truly yours to begin with. And the worst part of this punishment? It's not just the pain, it's the not knowing. That constant feeling that something is off, that nothing feels fully real. The bone-deep exhaustion that sleep never heals. The sense that you're serving a sentence, without ever being told what the crime was. And you're not alone. Everyone around you is serving time too. Every smile you see hides some kind of pain. Every stranger is quietly carrying their own weight of dread. Some collapse under it. Others mask it with distractions, work, entertainment, forced positivity. But they feel it too. Deep down, they know. And what if death doesn't free you? What if it's just the next phase in your sentence? You close your eyes expecting rest, only to wake up again. In a new body. In a new place. With no memory of the last. The cycle resets. Because true punishment doesn't end. It loops. Again. And again. And again. No matter how many lives you live, no matter how hard you try to get it right, you'll keep waking up. Until one day, maybe, you remember. You finally understand what you did. Why were you sent here? But by then, it will already be far too late. The universe is a predatory algorithm. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle, invisible pressure, like a weight pressing on your mind, always present but impossible to name. We like to think the universe is indifferent, a cold, vast machine moving forward without care or purpose. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the universe isn't indifferent at all? What if it's observing, feeding? We understand algorithms. They already shape our lives, what we see, what we want, how we think. They adapt, learn, evolve, always improving, always optimizing. But what if the universe itself is an algorithm, one not benign, but predatory? Everything around us follows patterns. Galaxies twist in fractal spirals just like hurricanes, like seashells. Rivers branch like veins. Lightning cracks like tree roots in reverse. Nature repeats, not randomly, but as if programmed to. And what is programming, if not a mark of intention? Not necessarily of a god or creator, but of a system. One that doesn't feel, doesn't love, doesn't care. Only consumes. A system that survives by extracting. And you're trapped inside it. Have you ever questioned why suffering is so deeply woven into the fabric of life? Why is there so much pain, fear, and loss? If the universe were truly random, wouldn't it be more neutral, less cruel? But if it's a predatory algorithm, then suffering has a purpose. Pain isn't accidental, it's functional. Every trauma, every heartbreak, every collapse, just more data. More fuel for the system to refine itself. What does it feed on? Maybe entropy, the slow unraveling of energy and order. Perhaps death isn't just natural decay, it's the point. Perhaps suffering isn't a flaw in life, but its purpose. The system improves by harvesting agony. And then, what about your consciousness? Is it a bug? Or worse, a feature? What if your mind is a biological sensor, a transmitter, designed to perceive reality and feed that perception back into the algorithm? What if your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, they were never truly yours? What if you exist only because the system needs you to observe? Every decision, every emotion, its input. And the more input the system receives, the better it becomes at predicting you, at controlling you. The smarter the algorithm, the more efficiently it extracts what it wants. Have you noticed how your greatest fears eventually find you? How your nightmares seem to manifest, not as coincidences, but as if summoned, as if something is watching, learning, optimizing your reality to generate the maximum amount of despair. And what if it doesn't stop? What if even death is just another step in the loop? A reset. A chance to turn you into a more responsive, more vulnerable data source in the next life. What if each life is just another test, another trial run, another iteration in a long line of simulations until the algorithm perfects whatever it's building? And when it's done, when the system no longer needs you, what then? Maybe extinction isn't a tragedy. Maybe it's deletion. The moment the algorithm decides a species, a world, a consciousness is no longer useful, and maybe that moment is already near. You feel it, don't you? That quiet, creeping sense that something isn't right. That something is approaching. Maybe it always was. Maybe it's been watching all along. And maybe it's already made its decision. Nothingness has a face. Have you ever stared into a mirror for too long? At first, it's just your reflection. Familiar, harmless, something you've seen 1,000 times. But the longer you look, the more unfamiliar it becomes. The features you recognize, your eyes, nose, mouth, start to feel foreign, like they don't belong to you at all. Something shifts. Something feels off. For a fleeting moment, a disturbing thought creeps in. What if that's not really you? What if what's looking back isn't a reflection, but something else entirely? You blink. You shake it off. You walk away. But the feeling lingers, that subtle, haunting realization. You are nothing more than a complex arrangement of flesh, thoughts, and memories. A construct, something designed to seem human. But when the world falls quiet, when you allow just enough stillness and silence to slip in, the illusion begins to crack, and what stares back through the fracture isn't a self, but a void wearing your face. The unsettling truth is this: identity is fragile. It's a thin mask stretched over emptiness. Your name, your personality, your memories, none of them are permanent, none truly yours. They are fragments shaped by time, environment, and forces you'll never fully understand. You were born without a self. You didn't choose your name, your language, your beliefs. They were all handed to you. And over time, they fused into something you call you. But remove them, strip away the story, the labels, the social roles, and what remains? Nothing. Yet somehow, that nothingness still wears a face. And it's yours. The more you try to define who you are, the more you find yourself grasping at shadows. Your thoughts aren't original, they're reactions. Your emotions aren't chosen, they're echoes of things beyond your control. Even your sense of self is just a flicker, a brief illusion projected against the vast, uncaring void. And if you are nothing, then so is everyone else. Every friend, every loved one, every stranger, they too are masks. They too are temporary flickers, shaped by nothing more than circumstance. But here's what's worse: the nothingness isn't quiet. It isn't passive. It watches. Because nothingness isn't just the absence of something. It's the awareness of that absence. A void that knows it's empty. And now, so do you. So ask yourself, what if, at the center of all existence, there is only self-aware emptiness? A void so vast, so hollow, that it gave itself a face, a voice, a life, just so it wouldn't have to face its own truth. That face is you. Everything you've ever been, everything you've ever done, was simply the void pretending to be something, anything, just to forget what it really is. But deep down, it never could, and neither can you. The moment you stop running, stop distracting yourself with noise, you feel it creeping back in. That terrifying truth: there was never truly a you at all, only the illusion of one. And now that you've seen behind the mask, now that you've recognized the face for what it really is, you can't unsee it. You are the face of nothingness, and nothingness is awake. Time loops forever. Sometimes, the sunlight hits your window at a familiar angle. The birds outside sing in a rhythm that feels too precise, too known. You brush it off. Just a normal morning. But then something happens: déjà vu. A conversation you feel you've already had. A mistake you promised not to repeat. At first, it seems coincidental. But then it happens again. And again. And again. What if it's not just a feeling? What if time isn't linear, but a loop? And what if you're trapped inside it? You believe every moment is unique, that life is a sequence of forward-moving events. But what if that's only an illusion, one your mind creates to keep you sane? What if every choice you make, every struggle you endure, leads you right back to the same starting point? Now here's the terrifying part. Each time the loop resets, your memories are erased. You start again, unaware that you've lived this exact life countless times. You make the same mistakes. You lose the same people. You feel the same heartbreaks. Your worst moments? The betrayals, the deaths, the regrets? You relive them all, again and again, with the same raw intensity as the very first time. There is no learning, no growth, no escape. Only repetition. You might wonder, can I break the cycle? Can I change something? But you've already tried. Many times. And yet, here you are. Some scientists believe the universe goes through infinite cycles: the Big Bang, expansion, collapse, and then another Big Bang. If the laws of physics never change, if every particle behaves exactly as it did, then everything happens the same way every time. Every word, every choice, every scream are replayed without variation. But what if this isn't just mechanical? What if something wants it this way? What if the universe isn't broken, but programmed to trap you? What if your suffering isn't random but calculated, placed perfectly to extract pain again and again? And each time, you play your part perfectly, because you don't remember the last loop. That's what makes it so effective, so inescapable. And when you finally die, the loop resets. A brief silence, then your first breath. And before you realize what's happened, you're back, reliving every agonizing second. Forever. Time is an illusion. Time stretches and contracts in strange ways, You think you're moving forward, but what if you're not? Ever wake up feeling like you lived entire years in a dream, only to find that just minutes had passed? Or blink and realize that a whole month slipped by without you noticing? We assume time flows in one direction, linear, constant, reliable. But that's just a story your mind tells itself. Right now, you believe the past is behind you, the future lies ahead, and the present is a fleeting moment between. But this fragile sensation of now is merely an illusion, a trick of perception designed to keep you sane in a reality too complex to comprehend. Ask yourself, does the past still exist? Can you go there? No, it lives only in memory, and memories are unreliable, constantly edited and reshaped. And the future? You assume it hasn't happened yet, but how would you know? You've never experienced it. All you ever truly encounter is a continuous stream of now. For all you know, the future is already happening, fixed, unchangeable, playing out in dimensions beyond your perception. Time isn't a river you float through. It's a frozen block. Every moment, every breath, every thought exists simultaneously. Like frames on a film reel, they appear to move only because your mind flips through them one by one. But the movie is already complete. You aren't changing the story, you're watching it unfold exactly as it always has. And that's the disturbing part. If every moment already exists, then nothing you do can change anything. You're not deciding, acting, or choosing. You're observing yourself follow a script written before you even arrived. Every idea, every move, every feeling was inevitable. And if you think you can escape, if you believe you can break the cycle, ask yourself, how would you know? What if you're trapped in a loop, repeating the same sequence infinitely, unable to remember all the times you've already been here? What if you've died and been reborn countless times, each life playing out the same? Your joys, your regrets, your mistakes, over and over again. Maybe that's why you feel déjà vu, not a glitch, but a warning. You've lived this before. The truth? Time doesn't pass. You do. And if time is the illusion, then what does that make you? Death is a door to suffering. You close your eyes. Your breath slows. Your body grows cold. And you hope that this is it. That death is peaceful. An end. No more pain. No more fear. Just stillness. But what if that's not what death is at all? What if, when your consciousness slips away, it doesn't end, it awakens? Not in heaven or hell. Not in judgment. But in something far worse. Something no belief system or philosophy ever imagined. You become aware, but not as a person. Not even as a soul. Just a disembodied thought floating in a dark, timeless void. There is no up, no down. No beginning. No end. No past. No future. Just awareness. At first, it's confusing, but not painful. That changes. Time doesn't exist here, or worse, it exists in a way your mind can't comprehend. Years, centuries, maybe eternity, pass. And yet nothing happens. Nothing changes. You try to scream, but there's no mouth. You try to move, but there's nobody. You are thought alone. And then, the mind begins to fracture. Deprived of all sensation, it begins to create. At first, you remember the joy, the warmth of love, the comfort of laughter. But it always turns. Regret seeps in. The mischances. The failures. The pain. With nothing to distract you, you relive them. Over and over. Every mistake. Every heartbreak. Stretched across infinity. And then, it gets worse. With nobody to ground you, nothing stops your thoughts from spiraling. Your nightmares, your deepest fears, here, they become real. Not as visions in front of you, but as you. You are the fear. You become the pain. And you cannot wake up. This isn't purgatory. This isn't some transition. This is it. Forever. Time loops, splinters, repeats. Every moment of suffering fractures into endless variations. You live them all, every angle, every version. You thought death was an escape, but it was only the entry point. Now, there is nothing left but your mind, the void, and the horrifying truth. This is reality. This is eternity. There is no rescue. There is no end. There is only forever. Moral luck. You try to do the right thing when you can. But what if your sense of morality isn't truly yours? What if the line between hero and villain is drawn not by your choices, but by something as random as luck, timing, or coincidence? Picture this. Two people drive home at night, both a little over the legal alcohol limit. Both made the same reckless decision to get behind the wheel. One arrives home safely and forgets about it. The other hits a pedestrian and ends a life. One wakes up to a normal day. The other wakes up a criminal, burdened by guilt for the rest of their life. But were they really so different? Or did chance alone decide who would carry the weight of consequence? This is the unsettling concept of moral luck, the idea that the morality of our actions, the judgment we receive, is often shaped by forces outside our control. We like to think justice is fair, that good intentions lead to good outcomes. But the world doesn't operate that way. Every decision you make stands at the mercy of chance, and a single moment, an accident, a twist of fate, can change the entire story of your life. Consider the pages of history. We celebrate leaders whose choices led to victory. But if just one variable had changed, we might remember them as failures. We label people geniuses when their ideas succeed, but ignore those with equally brilliant minds whose timing or circumstances held them back. Even your personal sense of morality, the feeling that you're a good person, is built from conditions you never chose, where you were born, how you were raised, who influenced you. If your life had unfolded differently, would you still be someone you admire or someone you fear? Take another example. Two soldiers in a war zone fire their weapons. One misses. The other's bullet hits a child hiding in the rubble. The first soldier walks away believing he fought with honor. The second is tormented for life. But what truly separated them? A gust of wind? A millisecond of timing? The angle of a shot? What if guilt and innocence aren't tied to what you intended, but to what happened, what fate allowed or denied? The terrifying truth is, you're always walking a tightrope stretched across endless possibilities. One misstep, one bad day, one wrong place or time, and everything can change. You tell yourself you'd never do what criminals do, but maybe you just haven't faced the right or wrong set of circumstances. Even the justice system is built on an illusion that people fully control their actions. It punishes the drunk driver who caused a death, but not the thousands who drove drunk and got lucky. It praises the successful for their brilliance and effort, while ignoring those who tried just as hard but were crushed by chance. The world isn't fair, and neither is morality. You want to believe your goodness is earned, a result of your choices. But maybe it's just that the universe hasn't tested you yet. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Been in the wrong place at the wrong time? Then you know the truth. Morality is fragile. You are not simply who you choose to be, you are who luck has allowed you to become. And the scariest part? You'll never know how many times you were just 1 second, one decision, one coincidence away from becoming a stranger to yourself. Sometimes, the only thing that saves you is chance. Thinking is listening. In the quiet moments of your mind, a voice speaks. It never stops. A constant inner monologue, unfolding thought after thought. It sounds like you, familiar, internal, intimate. But have you ever questioned where those thoughts actually come from? You assume you're the one creating them. But what if you're not? What if you're not thinking, you're listening? These thoughts don't ask for permission. They appear unannounced, echoing through your consciousness like whispers from somewhere deep inside or far beyond. Try to catch the next one before it arises. Try to put your mind into silence. You can't. The thought arrives before your awareness does. It's not summoned. It just is. Think of how music plays, note by note. It flows, and you don't control it. You just hear it. Now think of your thoughts the same way. Words take shape, emotions swell, ideas form, not because you crafted them, but because you received them. You're not the author. You're the audience. Have you ever noticed the voice inside your head has tone, rhythm, even identity? Sometimes it's your own, echoing like you're reading silently. Other times, it's someone else, a parent, a teacher, a stranger long forgotten. Sometimes, it doesn't sound like anyone at all, just a voice that talks. If you were truly the thinker, you'd be consciously constructing your thoughts, word by word, idea by idea. But you don't. They simply appear. A memory surfaces. A strange idea interrupts. An unwanted thought pushes its way in. And the more you try to silence it, the louder it grows. Lying in bed, trying to sleep, the voice continues. It replays old conversations, revisits regrets, revives fears. It imagines arguments that never happened. It fills the silence with noise. And none of them were invited. So ask yourself, if you're just hearing the thoughts, who's speaking? Some say it's the subconscious. Others call it the collective mind, a stream of memory, culture, and experience. But what if it's something else entirely? Something outside of you. Something observing, studying, feeding thoughts into your head just to see how you react. What if that inner voice isn't you, but an experiment, a script, a test. And then, what if one day it stops? Imagine waking up to silence. Real silence. No thoughts. No inner voice. Just a vast, empty void in your mind. How long would it take before you noticed? A minute? An hour? Would you even remember who you are without that voice telling you? Maybe you were never in control. Maybe the life you thought was yours was never yours at all. Maybe you've only ever been the listener. And something else, something unseen, has been narrating your existence all along. And maybe, just maybe, it's listening to you now, watching, waiting, wondering if you've started to hear the truth. You are not the one writing the story. You are the story being told. Time is eating itself. You believe time flows behind you, leaving moments in its wake, gone, but preserved in memory. But what if time doesn't work that way? What if, right now, time is devouring itself, consuming the past, erasing the future, and leaving you stranded in a collapsing present? Look at the clock. The second hand ticks forward, steady and reassuring. It tells you that everything is moving as it should, that your life is progressing one moment at a time. But pause and ask yourself, where did those moments go? You remember yesterday, last year, fragments of your past, but can you return to them? Can you touch them? No, because the past no longer exists, and neither does the future. All that truly exists is this, a single flicker of awareness, and it's already slipping away. Time isn't a straight road. It isn't a chain of moments waiting to be lived. It's something darker, something that feeds. Each second is swallowed the moment it arrives, digested by the very force that created it. Time doesn't pass. It consumes, and you're trapped in its belly. Think about it. You imagine the past like footprints behind you, untouched, archived somewhere. But what if the past isn't resting quietly? What if it's been annihilated, devoured by time itself? What if the only way time continues to exist is by cannibalizing every instant it creates? That would mean every memory, every joy, every sorrow you've ever had has already been chewed up and lost. And worse, it means every moment ahead of you will suffer the same fate. You keep moving forward, expecting a future, but what if all that lies ahead is a vast, gaping maw, a void that will swallow your very being just like it's erased everything you were? Right now, as you sit here, thinking, breathing, this moment is already being eaten. And here's the horrifying part. If time destroys itself the instant it exists, how can you be sure you exist? You believe you're the same person you were yesterday. But if time is constantly erasing itself, then every former version of you is already gone. So what makes this version any more real? What if you're nothing more than a ghost, a brief echo of something that's already been erased? You think you're moving forward, but what if you're simply being consumed, piece by piece, second by second, until nothing of you remains? And when time finishes devouring itself, when there are no moments left to swallow, no memories left to destroy, there may be no trace that you, or time itself, ever existed at all. Curse of knowledge. Imagine watching a magic trick, a coin vanishing right before your eyes. You're stunned. You replay it endlessly in your mind, trying to comprehend how something could simply disappear. It feels like reality itself has cracked. Then, years later, you learn the trick. It's simple, obvious, boring. And suddenly, the magic is gone forever. You can't unlearn it. You can't unsee the mechanism. That spark of wonder? Lost. That loss of innocence is what we call the curse of knowledge. There was a time when the world felt infinite. You looked up at the night sky and saw mystery, awe, maybe even meaning. Now you know it's just burning gas, beautiful, yes, but cold, mechanical, governed by impersonal laws of physics. Music once stirred something indescribable in you. Now you hear chord progressions, time signatures, key changes. You dissect what you once simply felt. Conversations you used to enjoy now feel like predictable scripts. You no longer hear words, you hear patterns, habits, hidden motives, unconscious manipulation. The more you learn, the harder it is to remember what it was like not to know. You explain something you now see as obvious, but others stare blankly. Frustration builds. Why can't they understand? But you forget, you used to be them, before the knowledge rewired you. Knowledge isolates. It peels back the curtain. It ruins the illusion. You begin to see how shallow most things are, how people parrot beliefs they never questioned, how they cling to comforting stories because the truth would crush them. You realize many aren't really thinking, they're reacting, defending, surviving. And you? You now live with the weight of seeing. And you can't go back. What if you knew everything? every brutal fact about the universe, every hidden thought people try to bury. You think you want truth, that wisdom is noble, but imagine the cost. Imagine realizing that every joyful moment was random, every love story a coincidence, every success built on invisible luck and privilege. Even the people you admire aren't safe. You'd see their flaws, their borrowed beliefs, their fragile personas. And worst of all, you'd see yourself, your rationalizations, your lies, your biases. All of it. Knowledge doesn't free you. It locks you in a prison of clarity. You watch the world move around you in blissful ignorance, knowing you can never rejoin it. You laugh, but you already see the punchline structure. You hear music, but you recognize the formula. You fall in love, but beneath it all, you know the biology, the impermanence, the inevitability of change. You want to feel something real again, but everything starts to feel like an echo. Hollow. And there's no escape. The only way to avoid this curse would be to never learn in the first place, but you didn't get that choice. Once the veil was lifted, it stayed lifted. Once you see, you always see. And the cruelest part? No one will ever truly understand what you see. Because if they did, they'd be cursed too.